Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where once again we're going to explore the latest advancements in AI, but today their impact on our physical world, because today I've got the pleasure of talking to Peter Evans, CEO of Xtract One, a company that's aiming to revolutionize the security industry by focusing on detecting weapons rather than profiling people, which has got to be a huge win, hasn't it? So I want to dive into that, and also how AI-driven security is changing the game, while also exploring the ethical considerations of such technologies and the future of AI in physical security. So buckle up and hold on tight, because no matter where you're listening in the world, it's time for me to beam your ears stateside, where Peter is waiting to share his story. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Peter Evans. I'm the CEO of a company called Xtract One, founded in Canada. And, what do we do? I think the simplest way of saying what we do is we've used digital transformation technology, the kinds of digital technology that's been used to change the way we do banking, education. In fact, this podcast, for example, Neil, and we've applied it to physical security. We're all familiar with going into a venue, going to a football match, or going to a cricket match or something like that, or going through the airport and you get scanned by a metal detector to watch for weapons. And the idea is metal is being used as a proxy to alert on something that may be a weapon. Okay, now those devices, they were built 50, 60, 70 years ago for a different purpose. And just to put things in context, Neil, 50, 60 years ago, one of the primary forms of communication was the fax machine. But it'd be laughable if you and I were trying to do this podcast with a fax machine. Okay? So why is it that we're still using 50-year-old technology to screen for weapons, particularly when the weapons threat has massively escalated in the world? What we do is we're using digital transformation technology to find a different way and not look for metal, but look specifically for weapons as people pass through our gateways upon entry into a venue. And so walk in with your cell phone, your smartphone, your earbuds, your watch, your wallet, your keys, you name it, and you won't alert. Whereas we would have before with a metal detector. Walk in with a knife or a gun, we'll catch that and we'll detect on that. So consequently, what happens is, the average person, you or me, who's walking in to see our favorite football match, we get in 10 times faster, no lines. People simply walk in like they're walking down the street. No invasive touching of all your stuff in boxes and bins, right? No waiting for the guy in front of you whose belt buckle keeps alerting. You just want to get in and get a beer, right? And so we take that same AI technology. That's our primary thing. But we take that same AI technology, we put it on video cameras, for example. So now I can detect guns at a distance outside a venue. I can watch for malicious behaviors. I can watch for people jumping fence lines where they shouldn't be. And so we're providing a digital approach to this concern about physical security in a world that's riskier. Does that make sense, Neil?
It does, and that's my favorite kind of technology that is invisible and just works, and just a problem. It solves a problem without interfering in our daily lives. And one of the questions I always like to ask on this podcast, I mean, you've just beautifully illustrated the work that you do there, but what's your origin story? How did you get into this world, and how did you become the CEO of Xtract One Technologies? Because I'm sure there's a big story there too, right?
Yeah. Well, so I've been with the company about 2 years. The company was founded about 6.5 years ago. And it was the spin out of a university up in Canada where they were doing some innovation around a thing called micromillimeter wave radar technology. And the idea behind this technology is that you could use it to discern different types of items. This is a cell phone. This is a knife. This is a set of keys. This is a watch. This is a wallet. And you get that kind of accuracy at a high speed. The idea being the kind of accuracy that you get if you ran things through not a metal detector, an X-ray machine. Yeah. And with X-ray machines, you can get that kind of information, that kind of detail, but they're slow and they're very expensive. So can I use, micromillimeter wave radar technology to get the same sort of information detail at a much higher pace and a much lower cost? And so that was the genesis of the company. And fast forward through multiple iterations of the product, testing, retesting, writing code, these sorts of things, we delivered a product that I felt we could stand behind and actually support in the marketplace about 2 years ago. That was about the time that I came on board and was brought in by the company to scale. I've done about 4 tech startup companies. I've been in high tech my whole career, and I've done a lot of digital transformation and a lot of work with artificial intelligence and machine learning software. So the board asked me to say, okay, let's take this piece of innovation and now let's commercialize it and bring it to the marketplace. And it's been a great rocket ride for the last 2 years. We count amongst our customers large arenas, large stadiums, small stadiums, schools, hospitals, manufacturing and distribution locations. We've got 3, 4, 5, automotive manufacturers who've all suffered from weapons incidences. And so, it's a really fun time to be in this business on a company that's growing very, very quickly. The downside is we're growing very, very quickly because of the challenges that society has right now with weapons.
And before you came on the podcast today, I was doing a little research on you, and I learned that you've worked had experience at IBM and so many other technology and security companies. And I'm curious, how did your experience there shape your approach to digital transformation and also AI-driven security solutions at Xtract One? Because I feel that's where the missing piece must be, right?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for that, Neil. We all learn from our past and from our experiences at places like IBM and Dell. I had the opportunity to see how to run a business at scale. Yeah. But those organizations, even though they're very large, multi-billion-dollar organizations, they're also driving innovation very hard and very quickly. And they've built very good models for, assessing, does this innovation have a pragmatic application to the marketplace? And if so, how to take it to the market, direct, through a channel. Do I do all the innovation in-house? Do I take some of it, outsource it to others? And so you learn a lot from all the hundreds of years of experience of organizations like IBM and Dell on the different options for different type of applications. And then marry that with some other, experience I've had. I've had the joy of working in a large number of small venture cap-backed startup companies that started with, 13 guys and 37 credit cards that were completely maxed out. And so understanding how to very judiciously spend your time and not waste your time because you can't afford it. And so, being able to bring those two sides of the experience set together, I think has helped us be successful as a company and staying hyper-focused on what we do very, very well.
And for anyone listening that's working in the events industry or live entertainment, the exhibition space out there, what would you say sets Xtract One Technologies apart from other companies that might be offering them security solutions right now? And how does your company leverage AI to create a safer environment for patrons? I'd love to hear more about that AI angle on there.
Now, that's a great question. Let me answer the first part of your question, Neil, about what sets us apart. We are a young company, and this is a young industry, and it will change and it will innovate over time. I kind of equate it to the smartphone industry. If you think of the first smartphone, it didn't have a camera. It didn't have a GPS. There wasn't a Google Maps or MapQuest. There wasn't an app store where I could buy airline tickets and pay for them with my app on my bank account. And things changed over time from the iPhone 1 through to iPhone 14. And there was this cycle of innovation. The more the platform could do, the more people got creative about the software applications. The more the software applications demanded, the more the hardware kept up. And we see ourselves as a very interesting position as a company to not just do one thing, weapons detection, but have a platform, coming back to your question, the second part of your question about AI, that platform that allows us extensibility to do more. So imagine in the future, Neil, when you come to a venue, you don't have to line up to have your bag checked. You don't have to line up to have your weapons checked in your pocket. You don't have to line up to then have your ticket checked. You're standing in 3 lines. That's not the experience that you were looking for when you paid $500 to go see, Manchester United play, right? You're expecting a very rich environment, particularly post-COVID, as people have come out and they want to engage once again. Our software platform and what we've done with AI allows us to do extensibility. So Neil, you'll approach the venue and we'll be able to say, this is Neil. He has a valid ticket. He hasn't been banned from the venue before because we know Neil's normally a hooligan, but he hasn't been a hooligan, right? And he doesn't have a weapon on him, and you have not broken stride. From the street to your seat, you haven't broken stride as you continuously walk in. Now, take that one step further with the AI intelligence that we're gathering about you and all the others. We can start to look at traffic flows. Why is one entrance got longer lines than the other? What can we do about that? What are the digital insights that we can leverage to make the fan experience better, to let you know that, hey, the concession stands on this side of the stadium are half the length of that side of the stadium. Getting you more and more information so I can fine-tune your experience as well as fine-tune the operations and, most importantly, the security operations of the business. Digital data allows us to do this. A walk-through metal detector doesn't. And so while the main thing that we're solving is this problem of the experience around walk-through metal detectors and weapons detection, the platform extensibility allows us to be the iPhone 14 of the future for this industry.
And again, when I was researching it, one of the things that stood out was Xtract One's recent investment from Madison Square Garden Sports. And so can you tell me more about that and how that partnership might influence the future of security in sports venues and indeed entertainment complexes?
Yeah, it's a great question. We couldn't be happier with the investment from Madison Square Garden. Everybody on the planet knows Madison Square Garden. It's an iconic venue. And for those who aren't aware, Madison Square Garden has a vision for what the future of patron experience and entertainment is going to look like. Go do a Google search on the Sphere in Las Vegas. If you haven't looked it up, I encourage everyone listening to the podcast to do this. It is leap steps, whatever the words and analogy is, ahead of the typical experience that any of us have when we go to a 15, 20,000 person arena. And the fact that they, quite frankly, kicked the heck out of us and tested our technology 24 or more times in multiple different venues, in multiple different scenarios, at multiple different events, not only at Madison Square Garden, at Radio City, at the Beacon Theater, and all these other locations, to validate not only did we work and work well for weapons detection, but also the extensibility of the platform, what we talked about a moment ago. They'd come to us and say, what would be really cool is, can you do X? 30 days later, we came back and we showed them that we could do X. And so they looked at that and they said, we don't know entirely what the future of entertainment is going to look like, but we have a vision for it with the Sphere. And we see you as an integral part of delivering that vision in the future. So we want to be a participant on this and we want to put money into your company. So not only are they a customer, but they're an investor in the company because they see the vision of what this industry is going to look like. And we couldn't be happier. We've now got a big brother who's helping us grow much, much faster.
And speaking of the Sphere you mentioned, Al, I think it's open till September, and I think you two are opening it. But I was walking past it a couple of weeks ago when I was at a tech conference, and they were testing the lighting and things at night. And wow, it's just something else, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I've had the chance to walk through it 3 times now during the construction phases. And the last time being at the ISC West show in Vegas, which is probably the show you were at, it's unbelievable. And the sound system and what they've done with that, they've leveraged innovation in so many ways for sound, for lighting, for touchless experience, anything that you can think of. They're probably 2-3 years ahead of the rest of the industry in terms of their thinking that venue. It's going to be unbelievable. And I'm looking forward to hanging with Bono at the opening night concert too.
Are you really? Are you going to be hanging out with Bono?
I don't know if he will kind of slum it and hang with me, but I will definitely be there.
Love it. And just looking at that venue and what it's trying to offer, it always reminds me of that old quote that the last best experience anyone has anywhere then becomes a standard expectation for what they expect everywhere. And presumably with like your kind of solution here, that's going to set a whole new expectation there. And as someone with extensive experience in digital transformation, what do you see as the big challenges and opportunities for organizations when it comes to integrating AI-powered security solutions in that almost invisible manner?
Yeah, it's a great question, Neil. Boy, that's there's a Pandora's box there.
Yeah.
I think there's sort of 2 or 3 things that kind of come to my mind immediately. First off, is people need to be a little bit cautious about AI, which sounds like a terrible thing to be said by a person who's, deep in the AI industry. But like so many other technologies and kind of digital transformation technologies, there's this hype cycle. And people get on board with it and they start to over-expect things. And then there's kind of this, I think Gartner talked about the hype cycle. There's this trough of disillusionment. Boy, I thought it was going to solve all problems. Yeah, it didn't really. And that could be because our expectations were too high. Maybe the technologies hadn't caught up to the expectations yet as an industry. But then you start to get pragmatic applications of the technology and you start to get the real growth curves. So you have to get over that kind of that period of irrational exuberance and through the trough of disillusionment and then get back onto pragmatic applications. The other thing with AI that people need to understand is AI is not a one size fits all. It oftentimes has to be very, very purpose built. Depending on the problem I'm trying to solve, I need access to data that's appropriate to that problem. I need an AI engine that can correlate that data correctly in real time. And I need a presentation layer to present the results of the information to the user in a pragmatic way. Too often, AI systems are, some engineering folks, bright, brilliant engineers who come up with an AI engine, and they're now trying to find a problem to solve. And maybe the engine isn't built to that problem, or they don't have access to the necessary data. If I'm a casino in Vegas, speaking of Vegas, and I'm trying to increase gambling at the slot machines, it's a different set of data I need versus if I'm trying to change the patron experience and increase, sales of food and beverage at a venue. I need a different type of correlation engine, and I'm presenting the information differently to, say, the blackjack dealer versus the merchandising person. And so AI engines become very, very specific in their nature. There's not one size fits all. And so I think we need to be cautious as an industry and as a customer in not over expecting miracles and then being unexpectedly disappointed.
And I think security and providing a seamless customer experience is such a fine balance. On one side of things, we all want to feel protected and just have a great evening. But equally, like you mentioned there, if I've got a history of being a football hooligan, I turn up in, a Stone Island jumper, I'm walking around in a certain manner, I might set off a few alarm bells. So how does Xtract One ensure that your AI-powered security solutions are ethically and responsibly developed and deployed, considering the potential impact on privacy, personal freedoms? Because again, it's a big Pandora's box, isn't it?
It really is. And I think, people are just getting to the point of sort of trying to understand and work the way through all the nuances of it. Everybody wants security. Nobody wants to be the next one who's had some sort of a gun incident at their venue. Yeah. But the flip side of that is we worry about our personal privacy. We worry about overuse of this kind of technology. And in some cases, it's become very, very invasive. I personally get very, very frustrated when I open up my emails and there's so much spam because, my data has been collected and is now being used and sold. So I think what we need to find, like from my point of view, I'm in the business of providing tools. I'm in the business of providing profiles. I can set up profiles around something like analysis of individuals and set a profile and then let the venues decide, okay, how much do I or don't I want to collect and what is the policies I want to set around that. When it comes to our system specifically, I want to identify one correction. The nice thing about what we're doing with our AI is it's completely objective. I'm looking for characteristics that define a weapon. Yeah. It's magnetic interference, it's reflective properties, whatever characteristics that we use as part of our intellectual property and our secret sauce to ensure that we are detecting this is a weapon and this is not. And it's irrelevant as to who I detect that on. It could be the King of England, Prince Charles walking through, or King Charles now walking through. We don't care, nor do we collect any data about who it is, whether it's you, Neil, or Charles, or me, or a dog, or a cat, or a cow, right? We don't care. It's irrelevant, right? Then there's nothing collected about that. What is collected is characteristics that say this is a weapon or this is potentially a weapon. And that's what we trigger an alert on. So in that manner, we kind of take that question about personal privacy information, personal privacy off the table and say, covertly and objectively and anonymously, you need to worry about this weapon.
It's so refreshing to hear that approach as well. And there will be a lot of people listening. Maybe they're working in venues that have traditional security systems. Maybe they're showing their age a little bit outdated. And I think very often they want to upgrade, they want to change and realise the reasons they need to change. And if they don't, the consequences of that. So just to try and bring to life the journey that venue may have to go through, do you have any examples of how Xtract One has successfully transformed, let's say, outdated security systems and augmented existing technologies to enhance safety in various industries or settings?
Yeah, absolutely. But first, I have to comment. When you said that they might be showing their age, I thought you were actually talking about the walk-through metal detectors, but then I had to correct myself and say, or you talk about the people. I'm not sure. Yeah. But, so let me give you one of my favorite examples, Neil, to your question. Let's talk about a typical venue. One of like the Moody Center in Austin, Texas, is a good example of your typical arena that holds 15, 20,000 people, whether it's a basketball arena, hockey arena, a concert venue. A venue like that typically will have 40 to 42, 45 walk-through metal detectors and about 85 security staff, running those metal detectors for a typical event. Okay.
Yeah.
That for a venue that's as busy as the Moody Center, they had a budget of about $1.5 million, $1.6 million for US dollars for the fees to pay security staff every year. 85 people, 250 events, add up the hours, add up the hourly rate, right? $1.6 million. With our system, we're protecting the venue with about 9 of our smart gateway lanes. Those 9 smart gateway lanes, the way they've set up their operations are being run by about 25, 30 security staff. So I've reduced my staff from 85 people to 30 people. There's almost immediate, $1.2 million of savings on security staff salaries a year. Now, of course, they have to pay me something, so it's not quite $1.25 million savings, but there's a significant savings. Now, the statistics in that venue are also showing that from assorted events, people, depending on the event and the type of event, are getting into the venue anywhere from 50 to 65% faster. And so you don't have these lines. So now I've got people in the venue faster. Well, what's the first thing they do when they get in the venue faster? Well, Neil, I know you. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to buy a pint, right?
You got me. It's not obvious.
Yeah. And so, one, food and beverage sales have gone up significantly. 2, people are in much faster, so they're happier. They're not standing outside in a crowd agitated, which is a bad brand experience just to start off with. I'm going to the Harry Styles concert at a new venue, and I'm standing outside waiting for a long time. That's just annoying, particularly in this world post-COVID where people have a higher expectation. People feel a little more entitled. They want a good experience. Now, I'm also screening for all of the weapons, which we've proven that we can detect as much or if not more than the metal detector. Better security, better patron experience, better food and bev sales, digital insights that I can use to continuously fine-tune my operations because I've got all sorts of data about the line length, the line duration, the line time, how many weapons were detected, which I can use in the future to say, if I have an event like this in the future, architect my security this way because it's a country and western concert. There's twice as many knives. Therefore, I need to be conscious of that and hire more security staff. Things like that. So it's a win-win-win all around. And so for those folks who are used to the old way, which is very, very common in the physical security world, this is an opportunity for transformation for the better.
We made a joke a few moments ago about the age of people and metal detectors, etc. And you mentioned Harry Styles there. I would imagine that queue or that line would be much more seamless than, let's say, Barry Manilow concert, where the traditional metal detectors, there's knee replacements and hip replacements setting off those on those old devices all the time, right?
Yeah, well, it's a great point, but here's the thing: those devices don't set off the metal detector, or they might set off a metal detector. They don't set off our system because they're not a weapon.
Yeah,
I don't know the last time someone took their knee replacement and beat someone to death with it, but so they're not a weapon, so they don't alert. So even much better experience for those folks who otherwise might have set off a metal detector. Interesting point you raised, though, Neil, that when we think about these things, every technology is people, processes, and technology. You don't just drop technology on the ground and magically the world changes. You need to go through the right levels of training. You need to have the right staffing. You need to get the flow right of how do people enter the building now that I've got this different experience. We had 2 events back to back, same system, same location, exact same security detection level setting. One night, it was an event like a Harry Styles event, and we had like 3,000 people go through an hour or more, and the false positive rate was very, very low. The next night, everything else being the same, we barely cracked, I think, about 1,600 people an hour. Could have been more, could have been less, but call it half. And but the false positive rate was much higher. But we asked ourselves the question as to why. And again, Digital Insights provides an answer. The first night, it was like a Harry Styles concert. The demographic was young women, the age of 16 to 20, T-shirts, jeans, cell phone, running in. Okay. They wanted to get to general admission as fast as they could and see Harry. Yeah. The next night was like a Barry Manilow concert. I can't remember who the band was. The average age of the attendee was 75 years old. We couldn't have got them to walk in faster if I had electric cattle prods. But there also was a lot of folks, like we had one lovely lady, she was a dear, she really was. She was planning to do her quilts. She'd quilted while she was watching Barry Manilow or whoever play. And she had these 12-inch, shears that she was going to use to cut materials with. And we kept trying to tell her, look, you can't bring that into the venue. It's a weapon. But large purses, walkers, canes, all sorts of things like that, which cause, people stopping for a long period of time, cause the false alert rate to be higher. The point being, the exact same system, different demographics required a different security operations process to maximize the value for the customer. And so that's where we spend a lot of time, back to one of your original questions, working with the customers to make sure their security operations is correct.
And as someone working right in the heart of this space, I would imagine you've always got one eye on the future and where things are going. And I'm curious, what are some of the emerging trends or technologies in the field of AI-driven security that you're particularly finding exciting or transformative for the industry? Is there anything else you're seeing out there?
Well, there is a lot in this, the cybersecurity space that we talked about. There's a lot in the physical security space that we talked about. AI is very, very good at changing labor-based business models, which don't scale. Yeah. If I want to do twice as many things and I need people, I need twice as many people, right? And it's hard to get people these days, so they don't scale. AI is very, very good at replacing labor-based business models and using software as the proxy for the people. Simple example, Neil, if you were doing a remote video monitoring solution and you've got thousands of cameras or thousands of video streams, the average person tunes out after watching those TV cameras for 30 minutes. Yeah. Now imagine thousands of those and thousands of people. It's not scalable. And so AI is very, very good at taking hundreds, thousands, millions of bits of data, millions of video streams, and just alerting on the one or two things that are interesting. Now, you still need a human. The human's very good at taking 2 or 3 bits of data and making a judgment call. So I think you're going to continue to see more and more AI replacing labor-based models and creating the digitally enhanced security guard who's got preemptive knowledge, who's got advanced information provided to them by the AI system. So when the security guard walks into a situation, they've got advanced knowledge and they can be preemptive as opposed to reactive. They're already walking up to an individual and saying, sir, I know you have a knife in your right front pocket. And the 3 games ago, when you were here, you were drunk and disorderly and you were expelled, right, for being drunk and disorderly. As a security guard, having that knowledge in advance allows us to change the dynamic about how security is applied.
Wow, it's an incredibly powerful moment to end on. And for anyone listening that work in the event space or just wanting to find out more about your technology, how you might be able to help them, what's the best starting point for everything?
The very, very best place, obviously, is our website, www.xtractone.com, spelled with an X, xtractone.com. You can come there, you can see videos, you can see customer testimonials, you can see case studies like the one we talked about. And you can also fill out a contact me form, and, one of my fabulous sales organization will be happy to follow up with them. And who knows, if they're very lucky, I like to call customers too. So you might actually get to see me too, or maybe not, which might actually be a blessing.
Well, I love chatting with you today about the future of AI in the physical world. And I think some huge important points you made there about the patron experience playing a crucial role in the development and deployment of AI-driven security solutions, and also ensuring they're ethically and responsibly developed and deployed. So many big talking points. I'd love to stay in touch with you. Maybe we can grab a beer with Bono in September, but more than anything, thank you for sharing your story tonight.
Well, thank you, Neil. It's been a pleasure talking to you. This has been a fun and compelling conversation. I'll give Bono a call and see if he's got time to squeeze you and I in, okay?
Love it. It was an absolute pleasure learning more about the incredible achievements in AI-driven security. and how Xtract One is paving the way for a safer and more equitable future. As I said at the very beginning, whenever you mention AI and AI security, there's a lot of ethical considerations that fall into play immediately. But I think monitoring just for weapons rather than profiling people and what they look like, that's got to be a huge step forward in terms of progress. But obviously, you've heard from me, you've heard from Peter. Maybe you've got a different side of the argument that you would like to raise today. And whether it be come on here and have a conversation about it, or just send me a little message on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, or email, please email me techblogwriter@outlook.com, at Neil C. Hughes on most of the social platforms. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and I invite you to carry this conversation on. But I do hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I did, and it provided you with a few valuable insights into the world of AI and physical security. I do invite you to continue this conversation, and I cannot thank you enough for joining us, and I cordially invite you to do it all again tomorrow, where we'll continue to explore the world of technology together. But thank you for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger.